Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of VCC Live. This is episode 8, D-Day Approaches, Got Caps, and VCCPA16. To my that way, co-host Jay DeLuco, Hingham Hill, Massachusetts, and also Massachusetts Smoke-Free Association. Directly below is Nick Green. Today I'll be voicing Nick Green. He couldn't make it today. He had an appointment that he had forgotten about, so he won't be here. I'll be voicing Nick. Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Nick. I don't know how to do a Nick Green voice. And then, again, I'm not good with the mirror thing. Down there, we have Matt Coley, who's going to be a new permanent co-host with us, and Jay will be voicing Matt Coley. So,
hey, guys.
That's how Matt sounds. He's like,
I don't know.
Hey, everyone, this is Matt from Suck My Mod. I think that was pretty good. Anyway, last night, before his first ever episode with us, I guess he had some issues with flooding in his basement at his house once he got back from Pittsburgh. And so he's trying to take care of that. So he unfortunately couldn't make it for his first debut episode. So we'll have to do a debut episode next week with Matt, and Nick should be back as well. And so you don't have to look at these two cool pictures the entire episode. We're going to just switch it over here to Jay and I. So, today we have a pretty good show for you. We're going to be discussing some relevant things that are coming up in the vaping industry. First, let's do a little intro. What you been up to, Jay? How's things?
Well, I got back from VCCPA late Monday night, and I've been sleeping ever since.
Making up for lost time, huh?
Yeah, it was a great weekend, but it was definitely taxing.
Yeah, I've been pretty much. I never took a minute. I mean, we had Monday where we kind of lounged around Pittsburgh before we left, and we had a couple of hours to kill. Went down to the Point Park and saw some cool stuff, and headed to the airport. Got back, and I pretty much started working and haven't stopped since because there's always something to do, and we're trying to get the VCC liquids, out early next week before the August 8th deadline. I know everybody's coming out with a liquid, but it's actually something I've been wanting to do for a couple of years now, and Innovate Labs out of the Tampa Bay area is making the liquid for us, so we're psyched about that. We had some bottles of Pittsburgh, which is one of the line. There's 6 flavors, At the event VCCPA, it was very well received. People loved it. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway,
is there a Springfield flavor?
There is a Springfield flavor.
There is.
We're basically naming each of the flavors after cities we've been to. Tampa got 2 because Tampa's our home, and we've done like 3 events here. So Tampa and Tampa menthol. But Springfield is like a watermelon, dragon, and passion fruit with a little bit of menthol in it. It's very good.
That fits. That copy is about 6 of my liquids, so it's fitting.
Oh, nice. I'm just going to call it Hingham Hill Springfield. No?
There you go.
All right, so, I guess we can, that's a good transition into VCCPA16. What did you think? I can tell, I can speak all day about what I thought, but what did you think coming in, attending?
I loved it. I think we can openly admit it was, and we knew it was going to be a somewhat smaller event just because of everything that's going on. But I actually found that to be a good thing. I found it much more advocacy and socially oriented than vendor oriented. Not to say that the vendors weren't successful at the event. I thought that, all the great vendors were there. I think they did very well. And they were very respectful to the fact that, we did want to focus quite a bit on advocacy. So I thought it was great.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I thought it was a really good event as well. Was it smaller? Yeah, it was smaller. But, people are, struggling with regulations at the moment, and they're trying to determine how it's going to affect their business and their livelihood over the next couple of years. So, understandable. I think Chattanooga is definitely going to bounce back because it's going to be after the August 8th, and people are going to realize that they're still in business and that people still need to do liquids and coils and tanks and everything like that. So I think, for Chattanooga will be, hopefully a bigger vendor turnout. But I'm never disappointed either way in the numbers. I'm not really looking at the numbers and how many people do we pack in the doors and do we fill the wall every square inch with a vendor booth. I thought it was light, but the attendance from the public was outstanding. I mean, probably you'll see some videos going around and you're like, oh, wow, it looks kind of, if you take though like 1,000 or 1,500 people and put them into a room that large, it's never going to look packed to capacity. Obviously, you would need probably 4,000 or 5,000 people. But we
Right.
had about 2,200 over the course of the weekend, which is pretty good. And like you said, every vendor told me that they did either very well or the best they've ever done at an event, which is what I like to hear as an event coordinator. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really good event. And the advocacy was probably some of the best sessions I think we've had at VCC events.
Absolutely.
We had PA Safada, Dave Norris there. He did a great job. Bill Godshaw, I don't know, he's probably been advocating for 30 years for THR products and certainly one of the OGs in the vaping advocacy. We had Larry Faircloth, who's a state representative from West Virginia. He drove up to be there. Very good information he gave us about how to approach and speak to elected officials and what you have to do to capture their attention at the beginning to even get 5 minutes with them and what not to do. So that was a lot of great information. Alex Clark from CASA, again, a lot of great information from them about how to become involved from the consumer level. And we had Albert Harper from Coils for Advocacy, and he actually came up with something on the second day, which get the crowd kind of excited and involved. And then with he'll stomp twice on the stage, and everyone in the audience says "fight" whenever there's a good point made. So it was stomp, stomp, fight. And also, I guess he's former Army, so he did a hoo-ah, and everyone would hoo-ah back. And anyway, it was just very
I told him
engaging.
I told him I was gonna steal that from ASFA.
The stomp, stomp fight or the hoo-ah?
That stomp fight.
It was very engaging. Phil Basardo kind of did our opening, an opening for us both days, and his speech was really, really well received and very energizing and to the point and blunt. And I think a couple of people were kind of shocked to hear him say the F word. But, sometimes you need to shock people to get them to listen, because otherwise they're going to be sit there playing on their phones looking for Pokemon or something, when they should be listening to about advocacy. So, yeah, great job by him. And then, of course, on the second day, on the first day, we had Jeff Connell from Innovate Labs did his rendition of the Star Spangled Banner on electric guitar, and it was outstanding. So we had him open the advocacy session on the second day with that as well. Brilliant job.
Yeah, it was great.
Something about hearing the Star Spangled Banner really, at least for me, puts me in the mood and just makes me feel extremely American. I don't know, I guess because the government's been putting it in our head our whole lives. But it's a very patriotic thing to hear, and and I think it makes you more receptive to listening about defending your liberties. And as you can see, our quote today is, "Liberty cannot be preserved without general knowledge among the people." That was by one of our founding fathers, John Adams. Very good quote, very true. We can't defend our liberties if we have no knowledge of what it is we're trying to defend. So one of the goals of VCC is always to educate. So that's what we tried to do. And I thought it was a very, very good event. So
Absolutely.
hope everyone enjoyed it. And I hope Tennessee's ready for us in October, because we're coming for you after 2 years away from Chattanooga. All right. So, couple of important things coming up. August 8th, I'm sure everyone's heard of by now. D-Day approaches. Go ahead and tell us what you think real quick about.
I honestly think that not too much is going to happen on August 8th. I mean, we already have the child-resistant packaging in place. What you're going to see is a lot less hype juice hitting the market after August 8th. What you see on the market now is what you're going to see on August 9th and going forward for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, if you're lucky. There's going to be, just like we saw on Tuesday, there was a lot of sky is falling kind of posts on Facebook and social media. I think you'll see much the same thing on August 8th, but how these regulations are going to manifest on August 8th, I think will be far less dire than what a lot of people are going to be talking about.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I think things will come back to some sense of normalcy. I mean, there are options over the next couple of years that are being worked on from every angle by a lot of great advocates. And, one of them is litigation. And I believe it's October 19th, which is 2 days before setup for Tennessee. Actually, there will be the federal hearing on the joined cases by the Right to Be Smoke-Free Coalition and Nicopure Labs / Halo. Those lawsuits were joined, as we talked about a couple episodes ago. And I believe that presentation of evidence is going to be on October 19th. So hopefully at some point before the end of the year, I don't know how quickly it will move along, but hopefully at some point soon anyway, we'll have an answer about which way the litigation strategy is going. And of course, immediately, no matter which side prevails, I'm positive there will be an appeal. So let's say the vaping industry prevails and we get what we want and what we're asking for, then the government or the FDA is going to appeal that. And vice versa. If the FDA's argument wins out, then of course the Right to Be Smoke-Free Coalition and Halo/Nicopure Labs will also appeal.
Now, what are your thoughts, if any, on our chances for an injunction? Because that's really kind of a best case scenario for us. If before December 31st we get an injunction.
I think the chance. Well, that's the thing, and with have been to law school, and I understand how the legal system works pretty well. It's always a 50-50 shot, man. You could have the best case in history, and it's up to subjective interpretations by the judge or in a jury trial in case of a jury.
Right.
But in this case, a judge, and for some reason they might rule against you, and that's why we have appeals. But it's literally always 50-50.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, that's what I've seen over the years is that the judge forms his opinion first and then tries to justify it. We see that on the Supreme Court all the time.
They're not supposed to be that way, but I mean, it's human nature.
It is human nature. Yeah.
And if we're lucky, we'll get a really good, fair judge who is open-minded and rule of law oriented and will listen to the arguments objectively. That's our best hope, honestly.
Right.
And if that's the case, you cannot. I've read some of the arguments in these cases, and if you're an objective person, you can't not agree with them. But ultimately, it depends on what the judge says. And then there will be an appeals process, like I said. So that's why litigation is never cheap and it's never quick. So
Right.
That's why we constantly need support for the Right to Be Smoke-Free Coalition. So if you are a vapor industry business in the United States or outside the United States with an interest in the United States, look at r2bsmokefree.org, become a member, contribute, do something to help out because it's not cheap, like I said. And the longer it goes on, the more expensive it gets. So that was my VCCPA shirt.
Oh, yeah. I was glad to see that both of the shirts that I got made their way home.
That's good.
Yes. So I'll get to wear those. I should have worn it today. I didn't even think of it. Sorry.
No worries. Mine's hidden behind a microphone, so it looks like I'm just wearing a black shirt.
I got the Don't Tread on Me one as well.
Yeah,
that was my
cool.
first choice.
That's kind of what's happening with D-Day approaching. Like I agree with Jay. I don't think a whole lot's going to change on August 9th, except for there are a couple of provisions that go into effect immediately.
Yeah,
18,
there's the sampling
18 and up only, but
right.
That's in most states they already have that anyway, so it's not going to affect a whole lot of people. And it's nothing that we don't disagree with. I think that should be a thing federally. The sampling issue. No free samples. And I've actually posted about this because we are having a change to our policy at the Vaping Convention Circuit. So I posted this on our event page and website and our Facebook page yesterday that I spoke with Attorney Azim Chowdhury, and he's obviously one of the best names attorney-wise for FDA regulations regarding the vaping industry. And we came to a couple of conclusions that number one, marketing for the events will not change. So I was concerned about where we're able to market logos and stuff like that. So we're not going to change anything at this point. Wait to see what happens. And the second thing was no entrance fee, because VCC, after the first event in Tampa, so for the last 7 events, has not charged anything for the public to enter. If you're over 18, you have valid ID on you, you can come in. And the reason why is we wanted to encourage smokers to come in without having to pay anything up front so that they could try vaping and maybe switch. So we're still not going to charge an entrance fee. Technically, the entrance fee is still free. There's no charge for anyone over the age of 18. However, we are going to have to charge a reasonable sampling fee, and we determined that $15 per person for either Saturday or Sunday or both days. We're not going to charge for both days because the products at the event will stay the same Saturday and Sunday. It's not like there's new products that they can try or whatever. So it'll be a $15 sampling fee, and that's just the way it's going to have to be. Unfortunately, I've seen some questions about who's benefiting from that money. Is it going to advocacy? Is it Are the vendors benefiting? No. Me as the event organizer, I have to charge a sampling fee before you can enter the event. I can't then turn around and donate it to advocacy or any other charity, because then it becomes a donation and not a fee, and that doesn't meet the requirements. And the last thing I need is for the FDA to show up to the event and say, we're shutting you down, because a lot of vendors put a lot of time and money and effort in to come into the VCC events, and I want to make sure that we're doing everything correctly so that they go off without a hitch. We've had 8 events in a row with 0 issues. Knock on wood. Hopefully that happens again for Chattanooga. But I like to do a lot of the most planning that I can do so that they go off very, very smoothly. And this is just one necessary evil post August 8th, unfortunately. So, yeah. Anything, what else is it?
It's good that you were able to identify that this early in the game as well. I mean,
I wanted to let everyone know as much as
you're letting everybody
possible.
know right now.
So we're still 3 months out. I mean, you can plan to save that $15 if it's. I understand that for some people that might be prohibitive, but hopefully with 3 months notice they can.
Well, and they could still attend the event for free. They just can't sample e-liquids in the event.
Well, no, we can't. I'm not letting anyone in, because I don't want to take the chance of somebody coming in and saying, I'm not going to really. One guy asked a question, my wife always comes with me. She's not even a vapor or a smoker. Would she be able to enter for free? And I said, no, unfortunately, everyone who enters, if you don't have a vendor lanyard or a business-to-business lanyard, which indicate we're just going to roll the sampling fee into the cost of those lanyards. But, we're not going to let anyone in, because on the off chance, even if it's a 1% chance, they say, I do want to try that liquid, and they sample it, I'm screwed. So I'd rather not, even be in that position for a $15 entry fee.
Well, it's certainly an understandable CYA.
Yeah, that's all it is. Basically, I'm covering my ass to make sure that we can continue VCC events and continue to educate and continue to have advocacy and, expose the general public and smokers to vaping, which is our whole goal. What else is coming up effective August 8th? So we have the 18 under, we have the sampling, the child-resistant caps, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, or the Child Nicotine Poison Prevention Act of 2015, which was passed this year and went into effect on July 26th. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but so that's already effective. Anything else by the deeming regulations? I know we've talked about it, but just to reiterate.
No, that's it. I mean, there was a lot of hubbub that vendors and manufacturers needed to register.
That's by December 31st, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's actually not the case for August 8th. Now, we can also touch on what's going to happen in December 31st, but it might be better to kind of hold that off, because there's definitely a lot more requirements,
right?
Especially for manufacturers on December 21st.
Yeah, we'll do that. We want to get past August 8th first and let the industry realize that they're still here and breathing, and the sky hasn't fell yet.
Right.
And then we'll cover that more in depth, in a future episode. All right, so I guess that brings us to the elephant in the room, which is the GOT caps. The Child Nicotine Poison Prevention Act of 2015, sponsored by Bill Nelson of Florida. I'm going to hang my head on that. Which actually, I actually don't see a whole lot, wrong with this legislation. I think it's prudent legislation for the federal government to have, and it's not something that some states have already done anyway. So.
Right. Yeah. Mass has had this in place since January.
Right. So. Tennessee, I think I know for at least a year or two has had that in place as well. So why don't you, since you are an e-liquid manufacturer and an expert, just explain to us. It just sounded funny. I don't know. Explain to us what the lead up to this was, and what the impact is or was on July 26, 2016, which was a few days ago.
So this legislation passed. I'm not sure exactly when it passed. I can speak from Massachusetts' perspective, which was that the AG's office put in a set of regulations last year that said, as of January, we have to follow that standard, that CFR standard. It didn't really manifest too strictly here. There was very light enforcement. Basically, if an inspector happened to be in your shop, they would take a look at what's on your shelf and just say, yeah, that looks childproof, and walk out. I don't remember hearing of anybody who actually wanted to see certification letters. Now it seems that as of July 26th, things were a little stricter. It looked like, they were definitely doing spot checks across the country. I was hearing, stories about inspectors walking in, wanting to see certifications, taking pictures, all that kind of stuff. But what they weren't doing that I could see was asking people to take products off their shelves if they didn't have a certificate. Which I think makes sense, because these inspectors don't fully understand the regulations themselves yet. So they're basically in a mode of just documenting what's going on.
Well, if I recall correctly, when we covered this a couple of episodes ago, because we did give on this show anyway, we did give some forewarning that it was coming up on July 26th, right. And we discussed it. I want to say that there was something in there about if an inspector did come in, the first issuance would be a warning, and then there would be if there was repeated offenses, then there would be some fines levied and possible right. sanctions. And then we were unclear if it meant at some point, if you keep violating the law, that
right.
They'll be able to confiscate the bottles of product that are not in compliance with the law. And just to kind of clarify really quickly here, I knew it was earlier this year, but I didn't remember the exact dates either. It was passed in the House of Representatives on January 11th, presented to the president on January 19th, and signed by the president on January 28th, 2016, becoming law on the same date. And the public law number is 114-116 if anyone's curious. And yeah, I mean, it's been, so basically about, 6 months? 6 months roughly just shy of 6 months.
Right. Since the federal law was implemented.
So anyone who was caught off guard or unaware by this shouldn't have been. I mean, I think it's been pretty common knowledge in the vapor industry for a while.
Generally speaking, yes, I absolutely agree with that. The problem that I have is that you don't really know in black and white terms what is required from who, and it kind of requires enforcement to begin, and some of the folks who have some of the larger manufacturers who have lawyers on staff and lobbyists and analysts to look at this stuff, they have a better idea of what the actual requirements are going to be for this certificate and the testing protocols and all that stuff. So I don't really think it's a big deal that some stragglers were just like freaking out going, well, what do I actually need to provide? How does this work? How does this law manifest? How is it going to be enforced? This and that. Because people weren't really talking about the dirty details until Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Right.
So it really doesn't bug me that some people are scrambling at the last minute, because as with a lot of regulation, you don't know how it's actually going to work until it's implemented. We don't know what's in the bill, so we have to pass it to find out, kind of thing.
I don't think this one was too long or onerous. I'm just going to flip over to the right screen here, the right monitor.
It's not.
So this is on congress.gov/bill/114-congress/senate-bill/142/text, and I'll post a link.
I'm already asleep.
It's the Child Nicotine Poison Prevention Act 2015. Here's some general information on it. And then if we go down, you can see what it is. An act to require special packaging for liquid nicotine containers and for other purposes. I'm just trying to look for any relevant sections, and I do want to read it because I know that Dimitri's on vacation, but eventually this will make it up to Smoke Free Radio on the podcast, hopefully. And obviously some people aren't seeing what we're seeing on the YouTube replay, or live. By the way, how are we doing on live viewers? Are we doing okay?
We're doing pretty darn well.
Good. Any comments or any questions yet?
No questions.
All right. Well, if any of you have any questions while you're watching this live, feel free to post them up. They don't go as comments to the video, so we're going to have to read them and answer them. Mm-hmm. For some reason, YouTube does not post the text of the chat log for some reason. I'm not sure why as comments, but anyway, it says any nicotine provided in a liquid nicotine container sold, offered for sale, manufactured for sale, distributed in commerce, or imported into the United States shall be packaged in accordance with the standards provided in Section 1700.15 of Title 16 Code of Federal Regulations, as determined through the testing in accordance with the method described in Section 1700.20 of Title 16 Code of Federal Regulations, and any subsequent changes to such sections adopted by the Commission. Saving clause. In general, Nothing in this act shall be construed to blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go to any relevant section that looks like it might. Okay, so I guess you really need to go to those CFRs to determine what the testing and stuff is. And why don't
Right.
you talk about that for a minute, Jason,
Well,
since you're familiar with it. It's
and
the same
that's-
thing you said Mass did, right?
Right. We adopted this law, or I should say regulation, in January. If you were to just read the law as an e-liquid manufacturer, as a small e-liquid manufacturer especially, you might think that you are responsible for having these tests performed, right? Obviously, a lot of small manufacturers can't afford to do that. That could cost tens of thousands of dollars. So it could create some panic, and it could also create a lot of people just saying, I'm just going to ignore it and ride the train until I can get through it. Well, that was never the case, that e-liquid manufacturers needed to perform this testing. They could, but the fact is that it's the bottle manufacturer or distributor that needs to do this testing. And
Right.
most of the major ones that I've seen had this done last year. They had all their ducks in a row last year. So at this point, you're just seeing a mad scramble of e-liquid manufacturers trying to get the testing protocols and results in so that they can create their certificate to then send to the vendor. I mean, that was the mad scramble that you saw this week.
All right. So what you're saying is the manufacturer of the bottles is the one who was ultimately responsible for
Manufacturer or distributor.
distributor.
In most cases, I've seen or in all cases that I've seen, it's been the distributor that did the testing protocols.
Okay. And then they do what with the testing results? I'm asking. I know, but I want you to explain.
They can either post them to their website or they can directly email them. A lot have emailed them directly to their customers, so their entire customer base. They'll email those results out.
Which will either be e-liquid manufacturers, which will be e-liquid manufacturers, right? That's their customer.
Typically, sure, but there are some sites that will also sell to the public.
Okay.
But it doesn't really apply in that
Yeah,
circumstance.
because it's
I
for
don't think.
manufacturers only. I mean,
Right.
so if someone buys a DIY bottle, this
Right.
obviously is not going to apply to them.
Well, I mean, do we really know that?
I don't think so,
ultimately,
not based on my reading
It wouldn't make any sense to me if it was a requirement at that level. But yeah, they're essentially emailing their certifications to their customers, which are generally e-liquid manufacturers.
Right. And then those are called the GCC that I've been seeing.
Well, that's the testing results is just that. It's the testing protocols and the results of those tests.
Okay.
And also a statement stating that we comply with CFR yada yada yada.
Right.
What the e-liquid manufacturer then does is takes that information and puts it in a GCC template, which is the certification
Right.
that the vendors are then, or the retailers are then going to store in a binder in their shop.
So now, one thing that I've seen from a shop owner, Nick Orlando here in Florida, I saw a post of his. He owns a couple shops in the Clearwater area. Was that I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it was something to the effect of he was expecting to see a compliance certificate with each order of e-liquid. What is that about?
I'm not sure. Again, I'll go back to what I said about enforcement. We don't really know. Certainly, if there's another run of tests, you'd want to update, that information on the GCC, or just provide the lab test results.
So basically, it would only be required if there were a structural change in how the bottle is manufactured. If it's the
Perhaps,
same bottle being manufactured and the same
Right.
testing results apply to it, then
Right. But
was there what would be his confusion? I wish I could find that post, and maybe I can. I'll look for it on the right monitor while you're talking a little bit about that, and just kind of see what he's talking about, maybe.
again, it kind of goes back to enforcement again. If your shop is under the radar, and then by extension the e-liquid manufacturer goes under the radar, or goes on the radar, and they want to put a microscope to you, they're going to want to see the entire chain of custody of that bottle, and if they find any hiccups anywhere along that way, somebody could get dinged. How often is something like that going to happen? I can't imagine that it would be very often. Again, if somebody pisses the FDA off, if somebody pisses off an inspector, you know, certainly, they could run through the entire chain of custody and find a discrepancy somewhere. I don't know, but I don't envision that enforcement is going to look like that, at least not in the short term.
Okay, I want to flip over real quick and actually found the post so we can see it and read it. And again, he is a retailer. Let's see, how do I do this here? I want to make it larger. Reference cpsc.gov. I suggest that all my vendors for the Vapors Depot place a copy of in my shipment going forward. Thank you in advance. And then it has quoted, if I post the GCC on the internet, do I need to change it for each shipment batch or lot of the product? And the answer looks as if it was. It depends. If each shipment is materially unchanged from the prior shipment, a single GCC may be acceptable. But the GCC would need to describe the range of products covered by their certificate. For example, a manufacturer could identify products using batch/lot information or other identifying information. Next question was, is a GCC required for each shipment of my product? The answer was yes. The law requires each shipment to be accompanied by the required certificate. The requirement applies to imports of and products manufactured domestically. Under CPSC regulations, an electronic certificate is accompanying, quote unquote, a shipment if the certificate is identified by a unique identifier which can be accessed via World Wide Web URL or other electronic means, provided the URL or other electronic means and the unique identifier are created in advance and are available with the shipment.
So you would have to essentially host a new certificate that's linked directly to a shipment?
I guess the term accompanying a shipment. I mean, I don't see, again, it's just something that I read it and I thought, wow, this might be good for clarification because, again, I always like that if someone asks a question or has an answer, I'm sure 1,000 other people had the same question. So it looks like accompanying each shipment would mean that it has to either accompany it electronically with a unique identifier that can be accessed via the web or the electronic means, provided the URL or other electronic means and the unique identifier are created in advance and are available with the shipment. Or you could simply make a paper copy, which costs about 2 cents, and include it with the invoice or packing information or whatever with each shipment. Mm-hmm. So,
okay. So
again, I just wanted to bring that to attention because it was a good point I thought Nick brought up, and
So if that's the case, then I would, as an e-liquid manufacturer, I would essentially have to include the same exact GCC in every shipment until something changed.
That's my understanding.
Okay. All right.
Again, I don't think it's too onerous. It's just something that people need to be aware of.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible, but me as an e-liquid manufacturer who's been on this since January, I did not know that.
Right.
I've literally just been emailing the GCCs and in some cases the testing protocols and results to my retailers.
Well, yeah. So if you're sending stuff from a e-liquid manufacturer standpoint, just cover your ass. Be better safe than sorry. Include a copy with the shipment. Make a stack of 500 or whatever. Peel one off, staple it to the invoice, include it with the box. Mm-hmm. Just to be sure. And then the retailers can keep them, like you said, in a binder. And if anyone asks, this is the shipment we received. This is the date we received it on. Here's the certification that came with the shipment. I don't know. Better safe than sorry, I guess, is what I'm saying. Because, like you said, I'm not even sure the people who are going to be doing the inspections really completely and fully understand what it is. So if you have everything up front and they look at a really organized documentation that you are obviously attempting to comply with the law, even if you're not doing it correctly, they're certainly going to give you a little bit more leeway to correct it.
Yeah, I view it much in the same way as doing your taxes. That's how the IRS looks at it. They're not going to audit every single person, that files their taxes. They don't have the resources to do it. They can't look at everybody under a magnifying glass. But if they see any red flags, then they might dig deeper.
Right. So basically try to cover all your bases and don't have any red flags. Mm-hmm. Don't do any, anyway, I thought it was a good point from Nick, and I'm glad we were able to share that because, other people might have the same question. And, yeah. Mm-hmm. And how's chat looking? Any questions? I might pop over and have a look.
Let's see. Can you charge for samples at a store? T-Bolt asks.
Can you charge for samples at a store? Not only can you, but you're required to after August 8th.
Correct.
So what I've seen some people doing is, it has to be reasonable. You can't charge like a penny sampling fee. It has to be a separate, my mind just went blank, barcode SKU. Has to be a separate SKU specifically for sampling.
Oh no, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that before.
You need to have a separate SKU just for sampling that you ring up and shoot with your gun or type in your computer or whatever your point of sale system is. And that prints out on the receipt or is available on the receipt, and it clearly indicates that it's a sampling fee. It can't be a penny or 5 cents or anything like that. It needs to be reasonable, which is, again, how we arrived at $15 for the whole weekend, because there are a lot of vendors and a lot of products. And even that might be a little low, but I wanted to keep the price for VCC events to as little as possible to keep people in the door. But if you're coming to this store, for instance, and the brick and mortar has a SKU for a sampling fee, I would say probably 90 cents or 99 cents plus tax. Of course, you're going to have to charge, collect tax on it, but something like that would be reasonable per visit or for a 15 or 30 minute time frame or something like that, which is, I think, something that every shop needs to look at implementing before August 8th. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question.
We won't know for 10 minutes because of buffering.
See, I think I got this muted. Oh, okay. Lots of buffering. We're actually, I don't know if this affects it or not, but we are having bad thunderstorms in the area right now. And usually when that happens, for some reason, the internet is a little bit slower. I'm not sure why, but so apologies. We have like 50 or 75 Mbps here at the office, so under normal circumstances, it's plenty to handle a live stream.
Unless your upload speed is only at 1 meg.
No, they're both 75, I think,
both 75.
or 50, something like that. But again, whenever it thunderstorms in Florida, it for some reason affects the quality of internet.
Mm-hmm. Someone asks, will you ever bring VCC to California?
We never had any intention of going that far west because there were a lot of events out that way anyway, and certainly not any longer because you can't vape indoors in California anymore. So anything that you do would have to be an outdoorsy type festival or something like that, and it's just not. That's not our MO. So
can we do a camping trip in Vermont then?
As long as we have more than just you and I in the camper, that would be kind of
Damn.
Let's see. I have a live show that has done giveaways from my sponsors. Is giving my viewers coupon codes after the 8th still considered a giveaway? Again, it's sampling, not necessarily giveaways. I'm not sure how that's going to be interpreted.
Well, I have heard that giveaways and like free raffles will not be allowed.
Right.
But again, I am not a lawyer. These are just grumblings that I've heard.
Someone did ask that question as well.
I know that they addressed it in the regulations, but again, how?
Yeah, but most of the
is it gonna
time
be
the FDA
enforced?
doesn't even know the answer to the question. So
Right.
I would say as long as you're paying anything towards, like say you're doing $5 for a raffle at a VCC event, and even if it's going towards advocacy or being donated, it still wasn't free. You paid something for the raffle ticket. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it is not a free sample. And sampling in my mind is trying a product before you buy it. So that would be my interpretation of sampling. It's
and I would say, to directly answer the question, asking about coupon codes during a live show. I think discounts are still allowed.
Well, discount indicates some price off of the normal retail price.
Correct.
That doesn't mean that it's going to be free.
Right. So if the coupon code is for a discount, then you should be fine. If the coupon code is for a free product, that I think we're entering into gray area here.
Yeah. And of course, they could interpret sampling differently than I do. Sampling for me, like I said, is trying a product before you buy it. But does that also mean that even if you vaped it 50 times and you like it, and the manufacturer says, we appreciate your patronage. Here's a free bottle.
Here's a bottle, right?
I still don't think that that's going to fly. I think that you're going to have to charge something, and it's going to have to be reasonable for no matter what it is you're giving out or trying to give out. So after August 8th, the days of unlimited free sampling are done.
Be interesting to see how how all the vape shows adjust to this. I haven't been doing giveaways on my show for, God, what's it been? Daily Vape TV's in the room, so it's probably been a couple of years since I've done a real giveaway on any of my shows.
So I don't really see any other questions. It looks like people are answering them themselves. I'm just going to close this because you're looking at it anyway, and it's distracting me. I'm looking over here instead of looking over here. So I mean, I think we've covered pretty well the issue of the. I mean, if anyone wants to, I can probably show you this, and you can look it up. This is 16 CFR 1700.20 testing procedures, and this is where you can look and see how the manufacturers and/or distributors are required to test these documents. And I'm not going to read the whole link out for this one because it's pretty long, but I will post it in the description if you want to have a look through it.
That's probably hundreds of pages of protocols that need to be followed. And again, this isn't something that a general consumer necessarily needs to understand.
Yeah. Now, this is something that Jay sent me a link for just before we went live. I'll try to make it a little larger here so you can see it. General Certificate of Conformity, GCC, and this kind of explains. This is cpsc.gov, and I'm not going to, again, read the whole link, but I'll post it in the description. And this is explaining what the GCC is and elements required in a GCC. So it's pretty good information for you to have if you're receiving this as a retailer, whether or not the person who sent it to you actually knows what needs to be in the GCC itself. So
none of this is specific to childproof packaging, but you can definitely derive from that document, what's actually required on the GCC. But there are enough GCCs flying around publicly at this point where you can at least get an idea of what's going to be required.
Well, I'd say before you use it as a sample for what you're doing, go to this website and make sure that it complies. You don't want to copy.
But it gives you an idea that this isn't a huge barrier to entry into the industry, or a barrier that will push you out of the industry. This is something that you can do, to maintain your presence.
No, I think with everything coming with the FDA deeming regulations, especially if we don't change the predicate date, this is peanuts. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, this really isn't a big deal. It's an annoyance, but it's not a big deal.
Well, and again, I think if we can prevent, this is why I'd never disagreed with it. I think that if we can prevent, one child from, but then again, what happens after you, and this is just a question that I have because I'm still not an e-liquid manufacturer, but I'll be selling it. I'm curious. If you have a compliant bottle and you break the seal on it and open it and it's no longer tamper evident, it's how they can act, how someone either under a certain age or over a certain age gets the bottle off, right? So gets the bottle cap off. Yeah. So it's like, does it require press and turn like medicine bottles?
They don't. As far as I know,
they don't distinguish that, but
they don't distinguish that. And
so that's what they're looking for, though, right? How hard is it to get to the product inside, which may cause harm? Correct.
And I don't think they require that once it's opened. I think it's just that first turn that they're looking at. I could be wrong, but
I think it's getting into the bottle. It'd be like if you broke the seal on a medicine bottle that contained a lot of medicine. You did it once, and then it was freely available to be opened, and a kid swallows 50 pills or something and dies from it. So I think that's what they're looking at.
In the protocols that I read, or in the test results that I read, most of it had to do with that first opening of the bottle. And
I read the actual testing procedures in the CFRs, and it's I'm fairly confident. Again, if maybe you can post a comment or right now in the chat. But I'm fairly confident it's how difficult it is to get into the bottle each time. So there should be something about pushing and twisting, or if you're just turning the top on it and you're not doing it the right way, it's just going to spin and spin and spin. So,
Well, yeah, typically that's how childproofing works.
Right,
Or you turn it, have to line it up with
yeah.
2 arrows and then pull it off, or
Anyway, all
childproof.
that's going to be in the links. You can certainly read the CFRs yourself, but if you're a retailer, certainly what are looking for is a GCC that is properly formatted and contains the correct information. And I would certainly request at least a copy of one with each shipment. Especially if there are material changes to the bottle.
Okay,
or cap
Costello
system.
brings up a good question. Is August 8th the date where vendors, manufacturers can no longer make health claims legally?
Correct.
Yes.
As far as I'm aware, yes. Consumers, though, can certainly say whatever they want to about how vaping has affected their life.
Yeah,
Because
consumers, advocates, they can talk however much
we
they
hope
want.
they do, and I certainly will, from a consumer standpoint, continue to make those claims. Actually, I don't know if you can see it on the video or not, but on the bottom, which is why we did these shirts for the VCC event, it says "Vaping saved my life." Obviously, the PA event was prior to the August 8th deadline, so I wanted to get that out there. And we didn't. I mean, it's not like we flooded the market with billions of shirts. We only had 300 or 400 or something like that. But it's the last time we're going to be able to say that on any of our materials from our perspective. And VCC, actually, technically VCC is not a manufacturer
Right.
or retailer of any products. We host events, so I'll have to ask my attorney about that as well, if we can continue to make statements like that. Being as VCC itself, Vaping Convention Circuit, VCC Liquids is a completely separate entity, and obviously we couldn't do that. Our tagline on the VCC Liquids is, "It's about not smoking." That doesn't make any health claims at all, but you still get the point, and that's why I liked it, and that's why I put it on the bottle.
Right.
But vaping saved my life, and anything that you're saying from a manufacturer or retailer or industry standpoint can't make any health claims at all. So you're gonna have to really watch what you say. Consumers, though, by all means, tell your story. We had a vape and coffee sip break. So if there are no other questions, then I guess what time is it? We're about 12 minutes before the hour, so I mean, that's fine. Next week we hope to have both Nick and Matt joining us. I think Matt will add a unique perspective. He's always, when he does his advocacy videos, very blunt and to the point. So we'll see what kind of a perspective that adds to the dynamic of our conversation, but I think it'll be a good one, and I think that people will enjoy having Matt on permanently. I'm not sure. I haven't figured out really how we're going to do it. If we have a guest on, I guess we'll have to have another scene set up for this for the other person, and when they speak, I'll have to switch over to them. But yeah, so it'll be four of us hopefully going forward. Barring anyone needing to be out for any reason. So we're looking forward to that next week.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else you want to wrap up with, Jay?
Well, hopefully we don't see another deluge of Facebook drama before next week's show.
It's constant, man. You got to filter it.
No, I know. I really don't pay that close attention to Facebook anymore, anyway. But no, it seems like in mass enforcement for the CRC has not really taken place since July 26th. Not that I've seen. None of the mass from members have spoken up about anybody having an inspector come in to look at the CRC stuff. And I would expect that around the country it will die down fairly quickly as well. I think they're looking for low-hanging fruit. They're looking to catalog some stuff,
Make some examples.
Make some examples, perhaps, if somebody's being egregious about it. No more of these mustard cap bottles. Get those off your shelves, period, because there's no way you could even look at those from 5 feet away and think that they might be childproof. But I think they're just looking to catalog for now, and maybe even develop some relationships with the shops. So be very polite, be courteous. Don't scream at them and kick them out of your shop.
That's not going to do you any good at all.
No. So no, this isn't the end of the world. July 26th is not the end of the world.
One of the things we need to keep re-emphasizing. There seems to be a lot of panic mongering, on social media and different places. Be reasonable, be rational, educate yourself, and we will move forward. The vaping is not going anywhere. It's not. It'll be
No.
in a different form for sure. This product and this device, not this one specifically, but these products and these devices are going to change public health worldwide forever. And if you think for a second that that's going to be eliminated or that people are going to stand by and let it be eliminated, you're wrong. So,
Agreed.
anyway, we'll have a great show for you next week. Nick and Matt will be with us, joining us hopefully live. And yeah, remember, you don't have to do everything, but you do have to do something. Get involved.